Hello, Wargamers! Today I'd like to talk a little about a surprise mass combat that happened during Patron Play recently. This event has prompted me to undertake this big project to explore the various existing fantasy role-playing mass combat systems and see if there isn't a way to synthesize the best features and create something simple, fast, and flexible. I'll get right to it and have a bit of commentary at the end. The patron NPC has discovered some clues pointing to an adventuring site I had originally planned for the PCs to find. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, the players went off in another direction, most likely because they weren't able to understand the clues. In a sandbox campaign, this is no problem. Most adventure areas are only sketched out in advance, with hooks or clues leading to them. The players may or may not go there. If they don't, I haven't wasted a lot of time creating a detailed scenario. I can also make changes, roll for domain events, or in this case, arbitrate what happens when a patron NPC finds it. The patron had sent out some scouts to investigate the area indicated by a fragment of a map he had discovered in a castle library. Recognizing one part of the map as the area near his secret fortress of evil darkness, he decided to seek out the legendary treasure. On the way, his scouts found a camp of 30-some jackal-headed humanoids who seemed to be armed and equipped as a garrison in a semi-permanent fortified camp. The scouts returned to the patron with this news, and he decided to marshal his forces and take out this threat forthwith. This particular patron interaction was taking place over Discord voice, as it was a little complicated, and we both had some time to invest in making it go faster than it would via chat. My Chainmail rulebook was upstairs, and we were in the moment, so I winged it with the stats and rules I could remember off the top of my head. The patron was cool with this method of resolution, as it didn't really need to be too all-fired accurate. Here's how the battle went down. Once the patron had indicated his forces and what his basic battle plan was, we simply converted the troops to chainmail and then rolled some dice. I decided the Skarn, allies of the patron, alien humanoids 8 feet tall and full of muscle, were 2 hit dice strong each, times 42 troops, plus a level 4 leader, a hero, and 3 level 3 assistants, including a shaman. Since these are pretty much heavy troops, I class them as armored infantry. There are a total of 80 hit dice for troops, and at a 1 to 10 conversion, this means 8d6 for attacks, plus 4d6 for the hero, and 9d6 for the 3 assistants. There is also a unit of 55 berserkers, which is just a name, they're not really berserk, with a level 8 superhero and 4 level 4 heroes, which equals 6d6 for the troops and 20d6 for the leaders. Since these troops were classed as the heaviest type, I assigned a score of 5 for them to cause a casualty. The patron also brought a force of about 30 skeletons and 50 zombies, which I assigned 8d6, hitting on 6s. Finally, a troop of 10 darklings for scouting and other activities. These were classed as light infantry, 1d6, hitting on 6. The opposing force of jackal-headed humanoids counted 32 troops with 2 hit dice each, plus 1 hero and 1 shaman. This gives them 6d6, hitting on 5s, plus 4d6, hitting on 5s. As I was completely unprepared to manage magical effects on the fly, I ruled that the Berserker Shaman would be able to counter the activities of the Jackal-headed Shaman, and the Patron would be able to cast a spell or two before the battle, possibly one during the battle. The Darklings were sent over the wall to open the gates and let the undead force in for a surprise attack. They were successful, and the undead army started shambling in. While the Jackal men were engaged with the undead, the Skarn and the Berserkers climbed the fence on the other side of the camp and prepared to attack from the rear. On the first round of combat, the undead scored no hits, no casualties. The Jackalmen killed a total of 40 undead in the first round. Since the undead do not check morale, the battle was still on. In the second round, the Jackalmen killed 10 more skeletons, but were also engaged in the rear by the Skarn and Berserkers. The Berserkers and the Skarn had a mission to capture the shaman alive if possible. The Skarn and Berserkers were able to decimate the Jackal heads and frankly wiped them out. I gave them a 2 in 6 chance of being able to subdue and capture the shaman, which they did. Funnily enough, it took less than 10 minutes to plot out the stats, actually roll the dice to see what happened. And it was all done theater of the mind. In addition, the patron player is not a tabletop miniatures wargamer, so there was likely a bit of a learning curve. I'll quote the patron now. So far, I'm about 15 pages into spells and swords, but haven't yet seen anything about heroes, superheroes, or assigning d6s. So I'm very confused, even if I'm overall happy with how the battle turned out. After the battle was concluded, the patron decided to go ahead and run through the Rules Cyclopedia War Machine process, which he is familiar with. I will describe that next, but essentially, it's a whole array of charts detailing various bonuses and penalties to a single die roll made at the end, which is not exactly a wargamey process. The Rules Cyclopedia War Machine version may sound odd, as I will be reading exactly what the patron player typed out as his description of the mass combat procedure. And here we go, quote, "So starting right when this message timestamps, I'm going to start doing the RC War Machine mass combat calculations for the forces we discussed on Saturday night. This was at 1:33 p.m. Leadership factor. Level 5, intelligence bonus +2, wisdom bonus +1, charisma bonus 0, and of my total force, less than 1% are name level, so the total leadership factor is 5 + 2 + 1 + 0 = 8. The experience factor, average officer level, will be all the leadership we generated for the Skarna Berserkers, but the undead need to be calculated separately. The average is 3.14. Average level of troops is 2 times 42 for the Skarn, plus 55 times 0, and the average of that is 0.86. These forces have had neither major victories nor major routs in the last year, so those are both 0. Total experience factor rounding is 11. I forgot to account for my acolytes, but they won't weigh into this or other factors because they're not high enough level and there are too few of them. The training factor. Weeks trained up to 20. I assume that, given the needs of survival, these forces are not able to spend 20 weeks a year in martial drill. Perhaps a total of 5 weeks worth of constant fighting, or since these are both warlike bands, perhaps 10. Let's split and say 7, any of those weeks, and while they spent those 7 weeks with officers, they didn't spend them with me, the leader. Training factor weeks 7, weeks trained with leaders 0, months on duty is 12, total training factor is 19. Equipment factor. Weapon quality is average. They each have secondary weapons equal in quality to the first. Their average AC is 5 or better. Equipment factor 15. Special factor. None of these troops are either elves or dwarves, nor do any of them have special powers in their monster descriptions. Special factor 0. Total basic force rating is 53, below average. It's now 1:44 p.m. Their battle rating, none of them are mounted, all of them have missiles, none of them have 100 feet or more range, none have magic, their officers have some magic, but that's 4 out of 118 living men, which isn't 1% or more. Actually, it is, but that's all right. So no battle factor for that. None of these have magic items or weapons. None can fly. None have a normal movement speed of 100 feet or more. So the total battle rating is 59, and the total force size is 118 fighters. Now, the undead. The undead treat their controller as if his charisma was 18, never make morale, but never get training bonuses. So the leadership factor goes up to 14. Experience factor, 2 hit dice zombies and 1 hit dice skeletons, averaging 1.6 hit dice, so experience factor is 8. Training factor is 0. Equipment factor is average, no second weapon, low AC values, equipment factor 5. Special factor remains 0. They get no bonuses for anything, so their basic force rating is 46, below average, and their battle rating is also 46. There are a total of 84 undead. Standing against me were 30 2-hit dice fighters, led by a 5th level with a shaman, 5 weeks of training with leader all year. Equipment factor 5. No second weapon. Special factor 0. Battle force rating 45. Battle rating 50. No mounts, missiles, magic items, except for the shaman spellcaster. No flying, no fast speed. So, 2 forces, undead 84, battle rating 46, men plus monsters 118, battle rating 59, against 1 force, monsters 32, battle rating 50. Troop ratios. The undead are 2.6 to 1 against the jackal-headed monsters, which improves their battle rating by plus 30. There are no adjustments for morale or environment or terrain. The jackal heads get plus 10 for defending in place and plus 20 for defending in mountains/hills/ behind a wall. So that computes to 76 versus 80. Undead's tactic is hit hard front, and jackal head tactic is hold. This increases undead casualties by 20%, but costs them minus 25 battle rating. Now we roll percentile dice. It's 2:04 p.m. For the humans, they are troop ratio 3.68 to 1, which grants them a plus 45 battle rating, no adjustments for morale, environment, or terrain. The jackal heads get the same defense. This brings their battle ratings to, for the men, 104 versus monsters 80. My force's tactic is envelop, and theirs is hold, which grants me plus 20 battle rating, new total 124, and increases their casualties by 20%. Now we roll dice again. All right, total of 30 minutes, including typing. Ordinarily, we would compute the battle force rating and typical BR when the force is created, and update it only when situations change. It makes it easier to apply the per battle situation modifiers. So, other than the fact that the undead in this system did slightly better on their first go-round, it works out the same. So, I wish the RRC Rules Cyclopedia were better organized because roaming undead are training factor 0, but controlled undead are training factor 52. That bumps my undead from 46 to 84. I like the War Machine system, but it needs to be better organized. It's now approximately 2:10 p.m., about 37 minutes or so for the entire process. Also, I stopped at the dice rolling. I didn't do the battle result comparison, removal of all casualties, etc. I also ruled that because I had 2 forces and was only opposed by 1, they could take different tactics. The base rules suggest that each faction may have a plan, but not each force. But I don't know how that's supposed to work when each force needs to be calculated separately. I'll finish the example later with missing steps. So in this specific example, the undead got 150 to the jackal heads 127. The difference is 23 points, and according to the table, the winner loses 10 plus 20 for my attack and tactic, so the undead lose 30% of their force. The jackal heads take 20% casualties, become moderately fatigued, and must retreat from the field of battle. That should have ended the fight. But for the sake of argument, since I needed to destroy them and they were unlikely to leave the tomb, let's assume they retreated off their chosen defensive ground. So second round of fighting occurs when they retreat into my berserkers and are destroyed. So that's how War Machine works. As you can see, 2 very different systems with 2 very different goals. Chainmail obviously is a miniatures game. War Machine is designed to avoid miniatures and simply create a mathematical model for determining the victor of a mass combat. Neither of these approaches are totally satisfactory, as they're unable to accommodate the preferences of 2 identifiable groups, minis gamers and those that aren't. It is my opinion that we can find a common method that can be implemented in different ways, specifically to address this discrepancy. Please leave a comment below and let me know what you think, and if you have any questions or suggestions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.